Good morning, everyone. I'm Sheila from Lingnan University in Hong Kong. And today, with my colleagues Mandy, we are very glad to have these opportunities to share our experience and to learn from all of you. And Mandy and I are both working in Lingnan University Library in a small team called Research Support, where our team will commence the role as the administrator to look after pure administrative interface. So in this presentation, we are going to share with you the recent efforts that we have been doing like for over a years to explore the way that to leverage the data with some analytics to help the university to prepare for the upcoming research assessment exercise to be take place in 2026. The research assessment exercise is something very similar to the UK REF. So let's give you a brief background about Lingnan Universities. We are a small liberal arts university in Hong Kong. We're currently having 3 faculties with a total of 16 academic departments. There are a few other individual research centers and academic units with their specialized theme or subject disciplines. So by the time when I'm preparing this slide, I haven't yet get the latest students and staff figures. But right now, Lingnan should have more than 300 academic staff and a total of like 6,200 something students covering both undergraduate and postgraduate levels. And we, together with 7 other universities, forming the 8 major public-funded university in Hong Kong, with our funding allocation to a great extent, follow the advice given by an entity called University Grants Committee, who advised the Hong Kong SAR government about the strategic development directions or funding allocation applicable to these 8 universities. And these slides will give you a very brief overview about the broad grant compositions applicable to the 8 universities in Hong Kong. And you will see there is a very big portion goes to teachings, but the research funding portion still eat up around a quarter, close to a quarter of these funding allocations. And amongst this 23% of research fundings, half of them are supposed to be derived while bidding some research competitive grants. And the remaining will all be determined by the result of a research assessment exercise, which we call RAE. And because this RAE exercise will happen once for only 6 years, and that means the result will dictate the research funding allocation for 6 physical years. So for Lingnan University, and I believe the same as other few universities, they will treat RAE as a priority task to handle. And this slide will explain how Lingnan University make use of different data tools to support data submissions for RAE in the past two exercises dating back to 2014. And in the last exercise took place in 2020s, we barely caught up with the schedule that Lingnan have Pure first launched in early 2019 to support the data submissions. But at that time, the use of Pure data will mainly be restricted with some tagging and reporting the data in some rather static and plain format. And right now we are already start some preparation for the RAE 2026. We have supporting some preliminary review and also a major mock RAE exercise took place in our campus just a few months ago. And we are sure that we have a lot more to come until the actual data submissions. So for prepare for the RAE 2026, the universities have already set out some principles based upon what we have done so far. They already make the assumption that Lingnan Scholars, which is actually the pure in Lingnan University, to be used as the single source of truth, where the for every ROs to be selected or submit for RAE exercise, they require the data have to be exist first in Pure as a prerequisite. And the data will further be used for other data export and reporting to support the actual data submissions. So approaching to this point, we have been thinking if there is any more that we can do with Pure data. And for that, we set some expectation for ourselves to achieve. And we want to maximize the potential and the value of pure data. And at the same time, we also want to streamline the data management workflow, as we anticipate there will have a lot of data updating work to happen from now on until the actual data submissions. And during the process, there will have a lot of different stakeholders from different departments, different levels to be involved, which many of them don't really bother what pure is all about. They really care about the outcomes only. So we have been thinking, if there is any way that we can transform the data to become some understandable components that can better serve this group of stakeholders. And end up, we think data analytics may be the answer. And before we actually have the chance to use Power BI, we actually had gone through a period that we did some experiment ourselves to test out the data and also to test out our technicality to handle the data analytics. We actually do our experiments with some freeware to use. So first, we use a Pure Web Service API to extract the data from Pure. And then we use Google Sheets as the interim data storage to store the data and to do some data massaging. And then we move the data onto the Google Data Studio to handle the analytics and visualization part. And end up, we managed to create some simple but nice analytic dashboard to start as the prototype. While it is very good to find some freeware that we can play with, it also comes with some challenges and problems. Say the Pure Web Service API, it is indeed very difficult for staff like us without very strong IT background to go through the raw data in XML format and to dig out the useful data field that we need to transform into structured data and to further work out the analytics. And for Google Sheets, its data connection is not stable, and it has a limitation to store up to 5,000 rows for each sheet. So literally, we have to use multiple sheets to operate our data with complex formulas. And also for Google Data Studios, it is just a simple tool, so you cannot expect to have many visualizational options that you can use with this platform. And the biggest issue is the Google Data Studios. We cannot integrate it with the university authentication system, and we cannot have the right to assign different usage rights for different stakeholders to look for specific data and data dashboards or analytics that are relevant to their departments. But anyway, we try to present this prototype to our university research committees, and very luckily, we received some very positive feedback from them and have them to open up the green lights that would allow us to make use of the resources under university license, including the SQL Server and the Power BI platform to further develop our analytic dashboards. And now I will pass on to Mandy to explain more to you about the actual Power BI use with the Pure data.
So thank you, Sheila, for briefing us on the RE background and our initial attempt with the Pure API. So as Sheila mentioned that we did face some challenges during our first attempt, like having an unstable data connection and access control issues. So to overcome these challenges, we have adopted a new approach using the two licensed resources, the SQL database and the Power BI. So first, we worked with our IT team to replace Google Sheet with SQL database to extract data from Pure using Pure Web Service. And these effectively resolved the instability issue we have in our first trial. And we also replaced the Google Data Studio with Power BI. And this shift not only enhanced our capabilities in data visualization and transformation, but also solved the access control issue we ran into during our first attempt. So you may wonder why we chose Power BI from a wide range of data analytics and visualization tools. There are indeed many other options available, such as Tableau and QuickSense, but Power BI stands out for several compelling reasons. First, it can be used for both data preprocessing and visualization. So it is very suitable for handling pure data that requires a lot of data massage and transformation before it is ready for analysis. And second, it has been effectively used by our IT team to present various admission and progression statistics. So many of our university members are already familiar with it or have experience in interacting with the BI dashboard. So we don't have to spend so much time and effort in educating them how to use it. And finally, it can be integrated with our university's authentication system. So it allows us to easily control access to specific groups of users based on their department and role. So in this way, we can make sure the right stakeholder access the right information, especially when it comes to RAE that involves many different stakeholders across campus. So this data flow diagram shows how our data flow through the entire process. As you may see that we, in addition to the pure data, we also incorporate external data from different sources, such as journal matches from journal citation report and Scientific Journal When, to provide more comprehensive information to support the initial RAE review. And this external data is stored in a OneDrive folder that's connected to Power BI. We then process both the pure data and the external data within Power BI to make them compatible with each other. And finally, turning them into actionable insight through a series of data analytics and visualization processes. So now shifting our focus from data flow, let's explore our process of turning the pure data into actionable insight to support the initial RAE review. So first, like any other projects, identifying data needs is fundamental to any successful project. So we begin by fulfilling the UGC RAE framework to identify the assessment scope and criteria. We also conduct a meeting with our research office to discuss and specify the types of data needed for the RAE review and reporting purposes. Oops, sorry. And at the same time, we also make effort to get our pure system ready for the RAE by creating a series of classification scheme tailored for the RAE. For example, we created a mock RAE 2023 and a submitting staff custom field under the research output records within Pure to allow our faculties to select and tag the research output for submission within Pure. And we also added RAE eligible staff field under the person record to indicate our staff eligibility for participating in the RAE exercise. And these custom fields not only streamline the selection process within Pure, but also serve as vital data source for our data analytics at the later part of this project. Once filled in Pure, these RAE tags are automatically retrieved into our SQL database, providing crucial information about the research output being selected for submission and the staff responsible for the submission, along with other details. So this data exchange allows Pure to be the one-stop shop for both data input and as the source of data. And after identifying the data we need, we then need to determine where we can obtain the data from our Pure system. So we start by locating the data we need within the Pure system, and then finding their corresponding XPath in the Pure web service. So each data field has its unique XPath, and the XPath serve as precise digital coordinates to retrieve the data accurately. Then we share the list of data we need and their corresponding XPath with our IT team for their help in getting the data into the SQL database. And the data in SQL database is scheduled for daily update to make sure they reflect the most up-to-date and accurate information. So in Power BI, there are actually two options to connect with SQL database, the import mode and the directory mode. And we opted for the import mode because it gives us greater functionality for data modeling. And so as I mentioned earlier, in addition to pure data, we also have data from different sources. So to make data from different sources work together, we have to transform them into a standardized format using the M code and DAX within Power BI. We also used the unique identifiers such as ISSN and Scopus IDs, which present in both pure data and non-pure data set, to link them up together to facilitate the entire data analytic process. So once the data was ready, we created 3 sets of visualizations based on different needs of our stakeholders at different levels. And I will show them to you one by one. So the first table lists all the research output record that meet the submission requirements for the RAE 2026. And it provides the key research matches such as Scopus Scopus citation count, FCI, and GIF for effective research evaluation. And researchers can easily filter and evaluate their research output for potential RAE submission using this table. And the second table lists all the research output that have been selected for our AE submission. And we have highlighted the problem case in red. For example, when we are unsure about who is the submitting staff, or when we are missing the full text file within Pure, to alert relevant colleagues to follow up on these cases. And finally, we visualized our research patterns and trends with 3 informative visual elements. First, we have a pie chart presenting the distribution of a publication by types. We have a line and column chart displaying the number of our eligible output over time. And we also have a table summarizing the individual contribution in terms of our publications. So each set of visual is decided to cater different needs of our stakeholder at different levels, and each inform unique decision-making process. For example, the first table I showed to you is decided for our faculty members to assist them in selecting the most suitable candidates for our AE submission by considering the key research metrics provided in the table. And the second table is intended for our research office and department dean to support them in reviewing and validating the selected output to ensure their alignment with the submission criteria and to improve the submission quality. And finally, the last set of visuals is decided for our university management to assist them in strategic decision-making at the university level, such as for evaluating individual performance in terms of RAE productivity, or to identify the changes and patterns in the university research productivity, etc. So we, throughout the process, we faced several challenges, and one of the biggest one was to automate data updates from external sources. So unlike pure data that can be retrieved using pure API, most of the external data we need rely on manual data update and download. So it poses us a challenge to keep data from different sources synchronized and avoid time lag. So to solve this problem, our solution was to use Power Automate to automate the data download and extraction from external sources. And the Power Automate flow is scheduled to run regularly and automatically to keep data from external sources up to date while minimizing the manual work involved. So we believe that Pure API has a great potential and can be used for various purposes. And we are still exploring the use of Pure API to empower our Pure data to support informed decision-making at the university. And you can see some of the prototypes we created on the right. So our experience with Pure API has been a positive one. And through sharing our journey today, I hope it has given you some insight for your own project. And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for your participation and attention. Thank you.
So because we're so efficient and what a great presentation, and it's very exciting to see when the data comes alive, and when you can do exciting things. I'm sure we've got some questions in the room. We've got a microphone that's around there. It's just so that we can record it and put that in. So
first, thank you for the presentation. Very interesting. I would like to know, we have seen several examples of what we can call the peer to SQL, let's say. And one thing I want to ask is how hard it is to transform from the APA to relational schemas. So if it's automation involved, and how difficult it is to obtain a relational version of going through the API for the web services.
Actually, we're working with our IT team to in the data extraction, and what we have done is to locate the XPath of the data we need, and then ask our IT team for their help to extract the data into our SQL database. So we didn't face so much difficulties in getting the data, and we have tried to inject the data directly from Pure API using the import web service in Power BI, and it worked well without any problem. So if you want to import data from Pure into Power BI directly, you can even use the import web service within Power BI without any difficulties.
any other questions? Yep, one in the middle there.
Cheers. Hi. Sorry, it's just a quick question, really. Just for clarity, are you using when you said you're using the web service, is that the older version of the API or the newer version?
The Pure Web Service is the older version of API. We use this because we are more familiar with the Pure Web Service, and we think that it's more easy to use than the newer one.